Hello out there. Welcome to our conversations about strengths. I am Jane Liebecker. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington, and I am an Eddie Villa certified coach specializing in using the Clifton strengths.
Awesome. I am Monetta Fields joining you from Laurel, Maryland. I too am an Eddie Villa certified coach, and I love to use the strengths because it helps others embrace and celebrate their uniqueness. We have a special guest here, right, Jane?
Yeah.
Theodora Carter.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
So I am Theodora Carter. I am a certified life and career coach. I am an HR consultant, and I am someone that has used the strengths, or at least I'm trying to use the strengths.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Theo. Well, we're just going to jump right in. Can you share with us what your dominant domain is? And you can also share your secondary if you have one.
So I'm not sure what my dominant is. I know that according to my results, I lead with executing.
Okay. Well, we're going to
Right.
go with
And,
okay.
and so I actually said executing
Okay.
as my dominant one, because when I was looking at my results, that's what it came to as far as. So I would say my second is probably the number one of my five, which is achiever.
Oh, you're an achiever as well. Okay. So executing all around. So we'll
Mhm.
go with that. And how did you learn about strengths?
So I want to say I learned about them from you, right? I mean, because I think I probably seen it somewhere, but I didn't really know about Clifford. So I will say that, being an HR professional, I have taken insight or discovery different assessments, but those were ones that actually, centered and focused on your professional realm. So the difference in the Clifford when you introduced me to them was that it really focused on my personal strengths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so how did it feel when you learned about your strengths using the Clifton?
At first, it felt like a little what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say scary, but it was like, oh wow, right? Because the ones that showed up for me are the ones that I actually do operate in, right?
Mhm.
And not even realizing that I was operating in them. So I would say that one thing was like, oh my God, this is real, right? And then I think it also was a bit overwhelming, right? Because then it was like really trying to figure out what the next step was in using them,
Yes.
right? And then trying to be consistent with like the coaching I was doing with you on just developing my DNA statement, because I will say that I do tend to have a lot of other stuff going on, right? So I think I was in those two spaces of feeling, and I get where it comes from, right? Because being an achiever, right? Automatically, I wanted to be able to dive in and write my DNA statement and get all my strengths in order, and and so it made sense. But I think that is a little bit of what I felt like. I kind of felt like it was wow, and then it was overwhelming, right? And then it was kind of like, oh wow, let's do this. I want to do it. I want to dive in.
Yes. So you've mentioned your number one. Jane, you're going to ask about the
Yeah. So we're going to talk to you today about your strength of a ranger. And where is that in your top 10?
It's
Number 5. That is what we call the anchor strength. It's an
Yes,
important one.
for sure. And so for those who may not understand what that means, I'm going to read what Clifton says is the definition of a ranger. So people strong in the arranger theme can organize, but they're also having some flexibility with that. They like to figure out how all of the pieces and resources can be arranged for maximum productivity.
That sound right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. That's it.
it
So if a ranger is your number 5 strength, what is your number 1 strength?
achiever.
Oh, yeah. Achieve and organize.
Right. Tell us how you use Arranger. Give us an example of that.
So I will say I am totally organized, right? I am one who definitely lives by my calendar, right? So, and I hate to say that I have like probably 3 calendars that I have to sync, right? I have a work calendar, then I have my business calendar, right? And then my personal calendar, right? And so, I would say for me, it is all about a schedule, right? But it's true what it says. I am flexible, right? Like I'm able to rearrange, change things around, shift, right? But I I do feel like when you think about the arranger, right, with the achiever, is I sometimes slow myself down because I tend to overthink because I do need to know I have a proactive mindset as
Mm,
opposed to a reactive, right? Which I think comes from being an arranger, right? Because it's a need to like kind of put all the pieces together
yes,
before I move.
that's good. That's a great insight.
Yeah, and you already told us a little bit about how your achiever and your arranger work together. Have you got any other insights about how achiever affects your arranger?
I would say I'd probably have to balance them because my that first strength, right, is probably one that I operate in most because I'm always trying to finish. I'm always trying to execute. I'm always trying to be like, okay, I need to get this done by this time, right? And so the arranger helped me by checking myself and being flexible,
Mm,
right? Not beating myself up if I don't meet a deadline, right? Not beating myself up if things don't go the way I anticipated them to go, right? Because the arranger and the achiever, to me, I feel like are always going to bump heads, especially because I'm organized, but I also have the tendency to not be organized, right? Like I have a tendency to, like, I could spend my whole week with my desk stuff all over the place, right? But in order for me to get centered and focused at the end of the week or the end of the day, I have to put my desk back. Like, even if it's just in piles, I
mhm.
can't leave my space with stuff all over. So I don't operate well in clutter.
Mm,
Ah, okay.
that makes sense. And so I think
Mhm.
you also shared what you like about it. It helps you stay organized and it helps you
Mhm.
accomplish the things at maximum productivity.
So,
But it helps me also not to beat myself up, right? So I think that's one of the important things about knowing that the characteristic was a strength, right? Because before I was just operating in the characteristic, right?
Mm,
But once I knew it was a strength, right, it made it easier for me not to be so like, oh my God, I didn't get that done, or oh my God, I didn't, because I recognized that that arranger piece meant flexibility is part of my strengths, and I needed to pull on that more. So I had to learn. So part of it was learning how to be flexible with myself, right? Because I can be flexible with other people. Part of it was me learning how to be flexible with myself.
that's good.
wow. And that you got from learning about your strengths.
Hmm.
That's
Cool.
good.
What would you say to someone who's like sitting on the fence about taking the assessment and getting into strengths?
I would recommend it, but part of that is because of my career, right? Like I've been an HR professional all of my life, so I truly believe in these assessments, right? Because they help you in the workplace and your personal life, and then also because I'm a coach, right? And so that's one of the things that I. But just for someone that's not a coach, that's not in the field of HR, like you're just the everyday person trying to live, I would say the importance of it is when you know what your strengths are and you learn how to operate in them, I think you have the ability to really thrive and achieve. Like especially for me being an achiever, right? Everybody's not an achiever. But for those people who may be achievers, right? I'm like me, it actually helps keep you grounded, but also gives you the tools, right? Knowing who you are, which is part of emotional intelligence. So I feel like this aligns with emotional intelligence, right?
That's good.
And yeah, so I would say I basically feel like just people just need to know who they are.
True.
right? And so that's why I would say to someone, even if it's just to know who you are and you never ever do anything with it, I would say take the test, right? Because down the line, you may need to use it, but just knowing who you are helps you just move through life, I think, in a more intentional way.
Yes.
Well said.
That's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you, Theo.
It was great chatting with you today. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about your arranger. Loved it.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, and we will talk to everyone soon. Enjoy Theo's arranger.
All right. Take